So, hello everyone, thanks for being here. I'm Tiffany, a rising senior physics major here in Boston College. So I work in Professor Birch's lab on the optics team. This summer, my project is mainly on developing a polarization modulation technique using a quarter wave plate. So, because this is a 10-minute talk, I will only be going through the big ideas I'm really excited to, without going into too much details, but feel free to catch me afterwards if you want to know more. And in the second part, I will go through the specifics of my project and lastly some conclusion and next step. So 1929, the physicist Hermann Weyl predicted a new kind of particle called the Weyl fermions. So the Weyl fermions, their motion are tied to their intrinsic magnetic moment, which we call the spin. And what's more wild in Weyl's prediction, no pun intended, is that they are chiral, meaning that there are left-handed fermions and right-handed fermions. So this wasn't really measured until 2015. So the discovery of Weyl fermions are named the top 10 breakthrough of 2015, and a lot of good papers has been produced ever since. Of course, publishing good papers are not our only concern, although it did give us a good one produced by my mentors, Professor Birch and Gavin, sitting up there. I'm so proud, but it has nothing to do with me. And so what is all this chiral business? So if you are willing to do an exercise before lunch, if you pull out your hand, oh, it's so shaky. Hey, somebody actually pulled it out, okay. So you see how your hands are mirror image of each other, but you cannot superimpose them. That means hands are chiral object. This is really a tautology because chiral means like handedness. And there are a lot of chiral objects in real life. So for example, the DNA strand, that these chirality are very crucial to the functionality. So for example, the pharmaceutical company really put in effort to ensure that the medicine they produce are of the right chirality, because otherwise the medicine may not save you but actually kill you. So this is actually a serious enough problem. We better know how to tell the difference reliably. So one way to image chirality is through the polarization of light. So light are electromagnetic waves that electric field and magnetic field are perpendicular to each other. And we conveniently define the direction of polarization to be the direction of oscillating electric field. And here's a picture in motion that better shows how chiral light looks like. So you have linear polarization, which means that you have only either X component or Y component. And you have the circularly polarized light, which are chiral. So they are right-handed circularly polarized light and left-handed circularly polarized light. And the left chiral object tends to absorb more left-handed circularly polarized light, and vice versa. And polarization of light are also widely used in imaging, such as the attenuation method used on brain tissue shown here. There are a lot of imaging methods talked by speakers before me. And the benefit of using this method is that you can obtain structural information on biotissue that are otherwise hard to obtain. But of course, we physicists also are interested in using polarization of light because the chirality of electrons in one side of metal and the topological nature of it really leads to interesting optical responses to polarization. So due to chirality, the intrinsic photocurrent produced has the benefit of very high mobility, which it travels 10 times faster than it would travel in traditional semi-metal. And it has low loss, meaning that it will not scatter as much. So this really enables new possibility of efficient generation of electricity from light, ultra-fast electronics, and also potentially used in spintronics, which means that it uses spin to store information. So with that being said, this is an example of how we actually do measurement in the lab. So you can see that we polarize light to discrete angles and we measure the corresponding photocurrent. So we do that by using a quarter wave plate. So how it works is basically, if you rotate it at 45 degrees, what comes out is a circularly polarized light. And at 90 degrees, it comes out as linearly polarized light, so on and so forth. So as you can see that this takes time. In fact, it takes a very long time, that it takes up to 40 hours to complete one cycle of measurement. And there are a lot of negative side effects that come with the long experiment time. For example, the thermal responses, because you can imagine if you shine laser onto your sample, it really heats the sample up and generates thermal current that shadows the intrinsic response we're interested in. And also the problem of stability and noise that really makes us just sad. So my project for the summer is really to develop a system to rapidly image multiple polarization responses that addresses the problem by the benefit of reducing experimental time to order of minutes, reducing unwanted thermal response, and reduce noise. So here's a schematic of how things will work. So instead of using static quarter wave plate, we rotate it at a frequency omega. We shine laser through it onto the sample. Our sample is very, very tiny and thin because light can only penetrate so much. So it's about 2 microns. As Jasmine already said, the hair diameter of human hair is about 100 microns. So this is 2 order of magnitude smaller than that. And then you generate photocurrent, pick up at the lock-in amplifier. So how a lock-in amplifier works is that basically in short version, you can pick up the signal, modulate it at a frequency you want it to pick up, and leave all the other crap out. So for example, you can see that the term related to linear polarization is modulated at 4 omega, and the term related to circular polarization is modulated at 2 omega. So boom, you can tell the lock-in amplifier to pick up signal at 4 omega, you got linear term, and as well as a circular term. So here I will introduce the specifics of my design that to actually make this work. So as I already said, you shine laser through the rotating wave plate, and shine onto the sample, generate a photocurrent, pick up at the lock-in amplifier. This is efficient, and everyone is happy. And then let's zoom into my project specifically. So you have the main body of the rotator, which is a motor. And then hook it up to an electronic speed controller and a servo tester, which regulates the speed of the rotation. And everything is then controlled by a power source, which you can imagine the more current you feed in, the faster it rotates. And then on the main body of the rotator, there is an encoder disc that keeps track of the rotating motion. And the motion is read out by an encoder sensor, which outputs 3-channel, A channel, B channel, index channel, go to a pulse width modulation circuit, which basically makes the signal prettier to be picked up at the lock-in amplifier. And then at the end, pick up at the lock-in, and we can figure out exactly at what frequency it is rotating at. So this is a 3D rendering of my design. So you see here is the motor, the encoder disc, the quarter wave plate holder, and on the another view, there is an encoder sensor and a sensor holder. So the whole thing is about, like, you can put it on your hand, that kind of size. So another thing to note is that because alignment is crucial, so I leave the 3 degrees of freedom for further fine-tuning of the alignment. So the next step is that I 3D printed all the parts before actually machining it to just make sure that everything would actually work. So here's a short video showing that it actually rotates. And then once it's passed through the current threshold, it does rotate, which is great. And this is an example of the output waveform from the encoder sensor, A channel and B channel. And here is an example of the index channel, which index channel corresponds to a physical location on the encoder disc that it outputs 1 pulse per revolution, and also mean. Yeah. So my main challenge is really the stability of the beam, because, as I already said, our sample is very, very tiny, which makes it very sensitive to the location of the beam on it. So we really don't want the beam to dance around. So this makes alignment very crucial, that to make sure that all the surfaces are flat and that the beam are passing through the quarter wave plate in a exactly perpendicular, so that it wouldn't wobble. So a quick recap before lunch of my presentation. First, monocenter metal is wild. Polarization is powerful. And then lastly, it's really that my project will be able to reduce experimental time, reduce unwanted thermal response, and noise. So some of my next step is really to do more testing on stability and accuracy, and finally, hopefully, the full employment of the system. So I would like to thank my mentors, Professor Birch and Gavin, for always helping me and always be there. And I would like to thank all Berkeley members for giving me such a fun summer. And also Rich and Bob and Eric, a PhD student who generally shared his knowledge on 3D printing with me. And also my family member, specifically my aunt sitting there. She's a professional herself, but she comes to listen to my amateur talk. And so lastly, I really would like to thank NSF and DOE for the funding, and of course the BCRU program and everybody who makes this happen. Thank you so much, and I welcome questions.
Any questions?
Everybody is eager to lunch.
As your advisor, I'm not sure I'm allowed to ask any more questions. Yes, please.
So since the stability is the symbol you're showing now is really tiny scale, as you mentioned. And
Yeah.
since you're rotating, it seems to be a big challenge.
Yes.
So do you have any ideas to proceed?
So first of all, of course, it's more testing. So we have like a beam pass, like you send out like a visible list, like dot that we want. How do you call it? It's like thing? Yeah. So we first use that to try to locate the beam pass and make sure like the beam visibly would not wobble. And then the like deep fine tuning is like problematic. Like it's we really want to map, for example, like if we are capable of doing ray tracing or whatever, to map like if it really would not change, or maybe just to do a test experiment and see if the result comparing to the result we already know, if it is like matching or there are like deep like differences between them.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, let's thank Tiffany.